what we're going to do for tonight is like a little journey through history, kind of, and see if what was made then, even though it's been left in a bottle for 30 years, is better than what they're making now, essentially. So you've got well, we're going to be starting off with Glenlivet. The Glenlivet is a 1970s. The old one's a 1970s bottle. The new one is, well, 2022, because that's when I bought it at the back end of last year. Has everybody tried number 8 yet? That's one of the blind rums. And if you have tried it, does anybody recognize it and want to have a stab at what it is and spoil the whole night?
I'm going with a grain. Because it's very creamy, very vanilla-y.
Yeah, that was just so that you've tried it before you try everything else, essentially, number 8. I just wanted you to have a little wet the whistle. Maybe if you're into taking notes during tastings or whatever, write something down or just keep it in your mind beforehand, before we go into the whole rest of it. We'll do the format will be sort of 2 whiskies at a time, both from the same distillery, both blind, and then we will try and guess which is the old and which is the new. If everybody's happy with that.
Yeah.
Anybody who's not online now, I'll just send them. Right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get the chat up on my phone because I can see there's 8 things in there already, and I don't know what any of them are.
It's mostly Adventures of a Babysitter is most of the chat at the moment.
Right, okay. I've just put our little ones to bed there. All up at the crack of dawn this morning, so everybody's gone to sleep just in time for this. Now, I was going to do like a little now and then sort of slide on each distillery, but it turns out that the internet is not the most reliable place for information, and a lot of it contradicts each other. So rather than me coming on here and someone's like, "Nah, you're full of shit, I was there the other week," I thought we'll just go down the tasting route. Yeah, as opposed to a journey through time and space. So you can take one, try number 1 first. It's either an old or a new Glenlivet.
It's got quite a nose on it.
I think they've changed quite a bit, putting them next to each other.
Very, very different.
So 1 and 2 are both Glenlivets, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, and the Glenlivet, if you want to see the bottle, I can go and get it, but it's a 1970s bottle.
Well, I do have some cork in there as well.
Yeah, you're one of the lucky ones. I tried to keep, because I just filled the bottles completely. Tried to keep the ones with the cork in for myself, but we didn't. Obviously, some bits get through.
It could be a dirty glass, to be fair. But
what's your thoughts on number 1? Has anybody got anything from it? Personally, I think it's quite nice.
Got like a tropical juice smell to me. It's quite fruity, but there's a bit of like pencil shavings at the back as well. It's like I'm just getting a little bit of wood on it.
I think that's the cork.
Oh, these are both Glenlivet 12, by the way. And the old one is 43%, whereas the new one is only 40%. So it's kind of an unfair comparison, this one. In fact, all three bottles, the first three distilleries are all different ABV.
Between the two, I would say that number one was the older one because it's got an older smell, right? I don't know, the smell just seems a bit deeper. I think, Nick, you said like tropical fruits and stuff. It's like quite a deep smell, whereas the second one, it's not the slimmer, but it's lighter.
I think the new. Oh, yeah. I nearly gave it away there, but yeah. I think one of them, number one, smells like it does have a sort of more flavourful sort of whiskey, as I would imagine it kind of knows. Whereas number two smells a bit like green tea to me, like a box of green tea bags. I don't think it's particularly exciting. Flavour's a bit better, but...
On which one, number one or number two?
No, the flavour is a bit better than the nose on number two, in my opinion.
I would say I found the nose quite interesting on them both. Number one, probably more so, and probably a bit dustier and mustier. Both of them had like Parma violets when I first sniffed the glass. And Len, I'd say probably number one was better on the palate for me. But again, you can sort of pick up that they're the same distillery and the same sort of age statement. Considering there's, so much time between them, I'd say there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, well, if it's been in the, I think it's quite impressive that it would have been sat in a bottle for over 40 years now, and then was distilled at least 12 years before that, and it's still like drinkable for a start, and still has flavour.
Did you pick it up at an auction? Is that where most of the ones are from?
Yeah, so I've collected a few old bottles of different things because I wanted to do side by side of specific distilleries. I mentioned it previously, but I thought, why not just see if we can drum up interest of doing it for a few different distilleries as a tasting on here.
I think it's
so.
Right?
Like I've still got the Glenlivet and some other Tobermory's on my shelf, but these ones I just went to auction and bought. I can't remember off the top of my head how much they were individually. I know that no, I don't know actually. I'll find out, and you can I'll find out while we're on this chat, and I'll put the prices up there and see whether you think they're actual.
But that is quite good though. If you do look at auctions, you can generally pick up a old label version of some of these for quite a good price.
Ryan's. What was that?
There's
Sorry?
someone waiting in the lobby apparently. Just to let you know.
I am not an admin, I don't think.
Your host, as far as I know.
All right. All right. Okay. Yeah. Big Pete Man's there. Admit all. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
He asked me if I needed to be admin, and I said no. So, yeah, I didn't realise I was. So I would have let him in.
Is he in? Just so we know we can boo the mafia now that they're all here.
Just out of interest on the older one, whichever one it is, I'm not looking for a hint. When you got it, did it come just a bottle by itself, or was it in a carton or a?
It's cartoned. Yeah, that's how I could tell what year it is, because if you go, there's a lot of websites include, obviously people use Whiskey Base, Whiskey Exchange have loads of bottles, and Master of Malt and that are no longer on there, but they're pretty good at, you would think, are pretty good at dating bottles. And there's another one called Bevy or something where you take a photo of it. It's an app, and it turns out theirs are not actually that accurate, really.
I think it's quite new because they launched just before the Glasgow Whisky Festival. So I think it will be more as people start scanning in all the photos and I'll go and find it. Because I used it a couple of times and they had all the Whisky Festival bottles because obviously they'd pre-scanned them. But if you come home and just go in your cupboard and see if it's working, you're basically the first person. But that could be quite a useful kind of thing for this kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, it'd be brilliant, but it was just at the time I got told to use it. I didn't know it was new or anything like that. So I went on there and it had like loads of contradicting information to what I'd read in other places. So, like, you can get in touch with the distilleries, but they don't know half the time. I got a bottle of Pulteney, and they said it could be anywhere between 94 and 99. And the only reason it's not past 1999 is because it doesn't have a barcode on it. Anyway, it does have a box. In fact, I might have it in the bottle here. No, it must be upstairs. I can go and get it anyway, and I'll show you. I'll put pictures of it, every box and bottle on the chat afterwards, so you can try and look for them, and I'll put the prices on and stuff. Simon, hello. So we were just and Mike, have you been listening the whole time, or have you just come in now?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been listening from the start. Sorry, I was having a late tea and I figured no one wanted to see me shoveling food in my face.
Okay.
Well, if everyone goes on mute, it would just stop the echo. Other than Dave.
Yeah, so Simon, we started off with just a small sip of number 8, and then we're going through the numbers 1 to 8.
Perfect. Sorry, the echo is me. I joined twice, so there you go.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, just a small sip of number 8, so you can sort of have a sort of fair crack of the whip if you've had it before, and because that's going to be the sort of two blind drams at the end of the night. It'll be 7 and 8. 1 and 2 are both Glenlivet, a 1970s bottle and a 2022 bottle.
But you haven't said which one's which?
Not yet. We've been having some guesses.
I think Tom said earlier on he prefers 1 till 2. The mouthfeel on 1 being better, there's a bit more flavour in it. And I agree with that. Number 2's very, very mellow. Great cracking opening dram, but between the two, there's not much going on with number 2, really, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to join the crowd of saying I've no idea which one's which, but I certainly prefer 1 to 2.
Yes,
I'll do a little tally chart at the end, and if anybody prefers anything, and we'll see which one people prefer and what people's general consensus is of whether they think 1 or 2 is the old or new.
I find two's got a bit of a more kind of afterbite in the finish.
Yeah.
And I
I
thought
found
one
that.
hasn't got that. One's much more kind of like subtle, and I definitely prefer one.
I think this could be a clean sweep at this rate. What do you think, Johnny? Have you got through them yet?
Yeah, I think the nose on 2 stands out for me, but I think the taste on the first one, for me, they're a lot closer on the palate than they are on the nose.
Yeah, number 2's nose is a lot stronger, I think. There's a lot more to it.
I mean, for me, there's not one that's far better than the other. So already we're dispelling the myth that 40 years ago or 50 years ago was definitely better. But very interesting. I think there is a similar DNA, but that's easier to say when you know that they're both in the same distillery.
What about we're saying this now, but we don't know how much it's affected it being sat in the bottle for 40 years. So could it have been better 40 years ago? Are we going to give it the benefit of the doubt and jump on the bandwagon? Or
The colour on one is a bit darker than 2 as well, isn't it? Is it me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
Just a question. It is a 2022 bottle, is it?
Yes, here is the bottle of the Glenlivet 12 Double Oak.
Yeah. And I took out the book. Since 2009, which is 13 years ago, the distillery capacity has been expanded in 2 steps, from so much liters to so much liters, and the last step completed in 2018. But so there has been some expansion before the 2022 version that might have affected the whole distillery process to some extent.
This is one of the things I was going to put in one of the slides, actually, but I didn't I didn't want to be having people here at 2 o'clock in the morning still. It wouldn't normally bother me, but I've actually got to drive to Scotland in the morning, so that is something of note that I would say that could affect the process. So are we all going to have we got a raise of hands for who prefers number 1 over number 2? So hang on, how many is that? 1, 2, 3. Oh, hold on, it's just moved. Alan, yeah, hi Alan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
We're voting to lynch Tom, right?
So I think people prefer number 1 to number 2, going on the amount of pit we've got here. So what do we think's the older whiskey, number 1 or number 2?
I think number 2.
Number 1.
1. I think 1.
So how many for 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think Simon's voting for 2, even though he's got his hand up for 1.
So it's 6. 1 doesn't know, and Simon's gone for 2. Yeah, it's the majority are right. It is number 1 that's the older. In fact, I'll go and get the bottle now so you can see what you're drinking. Bear with me. Chat amongst yourselves about my disorganisation.
God, he's really disorganised, isn't he?
What did he say the percentage was on number 1? It was 40 on number 2.
43, yeah.
It does. It tastes like squash that's been made with a little bit more concentrate.
Yeah, it does.
Just a little bit more taste.
Yeah, my bottle of Ribena says you get 20 glasses out of it. No, I definitely don't.
It was nice enough though. It was just as a sipping dram. I thought that was a really decent starter.
Yeah,
I'm not
definitely.
normally a Glenlivet fan.
I am, because it was the only malt that they had on United Airlines back in the day.
So there's the box. And there's the bottle. This is actually got a few different dates on the internet, so I just went with the most common for that bottle, basically. There's a lot of different intricacies that I looked into on the different bottles, and that's what I came up with. So,
and what's the auction price on something like that, Dave?
That would have been about 35 quid. Give me a minute.
Before they add in all the gubbins.
Yeah, you could probably get it a little bit cheaper if you tried, but
it's like I said. I think sometimes auctions are always worth a look at, because you can just get some cracking bargains on them, and not old whiskies, but whiskies from a long time ago in scabby cartons are often very cheap.
Yeah.
And I like Dave. I think it's great to try them, particularly a lot of the old blends. So if you can pick up some funny old obscure blends from the 70s and 80s, some of them are absolutely crackers.
That was £30 plus distillery.
10% plus that.
Yeah, plus. Yeah.
Probably 34.5 quid, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So we're moving on to Glenmorangie next. That was slightly more expensive. That was 45 quid. I probably paid over the odds for that, but it was there at the time, and I wanted to get the show on the road. So we will move on to number 3 if everybody's ready. And 4. But take them in twos. So these are both Glenmorangie 10. One is 43%. The other is 40%. Again, the bottle is a bit spurious as to when it comes from online. It could be early 2000s, but from what I've gathered, it's anywhere between like early 90s to late 90s.
That was really different on the nose for me. I'm getting loads more orange in number 4 than 3.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Three's quite bland compared to number 4.
Frank, so have these done any expansion in between? In between when we, the old v the new one. Is that in your book?
Glenmorangie?
Yeah.
Oh, have a look.
To be fair, I only looked at it about half an hour ago, but I can't remember now. Not that book. I was just looking online. So for
No, not
number,
much. The only thing about expansion was mentioned about well, the recent expansion, which is only a couple of years ago. And I'll just try to see if something is in the book 2 years ago, because the current expansion isn't in there yet.
personally, I don't think number 3's got a lot about it. 3 pineapple, 4 orange. Makes sense. What's one is just
The old
ahead of-
one was the before 1994. And it might have to do with the visitor center that opened.
Yeah.
Now there was in 1980, the number of stills increased from 2 to 4, and owned malting ceases. And in 1990, the number of stills has doubled to 8.
So that's probably a biggie, is their own malting season, because that means they've got the same malt as everybody else. So anything that is unique on their malting floor is gone.
Now
I do think there's quite a distinct difference between these two.
Yeah, they're much different than 1 and 2 were from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, kind of just like Frank said, like there's something in 4 that isn't in 3. It's almost like 4's got something extra. 3's quite not necessarily bland, but just it's quite simple, isn't it?
I think it is a bit bland. I don't think there's much to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot more fruit on the second one for me. A lot. I got like mango and apple juice and orange juice, quite a lot of different stuff in there. And then the end, the mouth feels better on it as well. The first one's quite dry and tannic for me. The second one's a bit oily. Well, it's not. Yeah, a bit oily. I quite like number 4 actually. That's really nice.
What mix, basically?
Well, Alan's got a point here that I was going to say, but I didn't. Like, obviously, nobody in this group's going to be led by what I'm saying, but I do think that 3 has overlap of number 2.
Yes.
On the nose, I thought
100%
I didn't
on the
want
nose,
to say it, but that tea bag smell I got from number 2, I got on number 3 as well. But I didn't want you thinking, has this guy just been sniffing tea bags all week?
No, I know what you mean. It's kind of
damage done. Damage is done.
Yeah, 2 to 3.
That's so strange, isn't it?
Now, if I didn't know they were Glenmorangie, I probably wouldn't have so much of opinion between which age one is. Number 4 is more Glenmorangie like than number 3. So I'd like to think that number 4 is the newer one, and that number 3 is maybe just lost a bit in the bottle.
Interesting.
Aniseed on number 4 now. Tannic could be confused with a burnt tea nut.
I think you guys need to stop drinking tea before you come into the tasting.
It's only on the nose, so I've just been sniffing it as opposed to drinking it.
See, I think 3 is, without a doubt, the current bottling. I'm not saying that I drank it recently, but maybe.
And then what? 40 and 43, the new ones.
40 and 43, yes. Where's the... Yeah, 43% is one of them. Well, obviously the new one's 40%, so the old one, the old one's the 43. There's no mystery. I did specifically try and use the same age statement, but not the same ABV as well, just to try and sort of, well, don't think showcase is the right word, but see if we think that higher ABV in whiskies, in these particular whiskies, is better, or whether it makes any difference whatsoever, sort of thing.
The
So
old
far,
bottle,
we're
10-year, is it?
both 10, yeah.
Both 10, yeah.
So the first one, the higher ABV, won quite easily, I would say. Well, it's not a competition, but you know what I mean. Was the favoured.
Between 1 and 2, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, shall we go for the vote on Glenmorangie? Unless anybody's got anything they'd like to... Well, we can carry on talking about it, to be honest. GM. So number 3, have we got a show of hands who like number 3 the most? No one. So what about number 4? Anybody? That's good. Yeah, so number 4 was a whitewash. Who thinks number 3 is the old one? One person. And yeah, so we think number 4 is the older and the better. And you're right, yeah, it is. And in my opinion, I think it's far better. Like with the last one, people were saying like, you don't think there's that much difference, blah blah blah. It's there's still a similarity. I think that there is totally different. That's my opinion. I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in, but
I agree.
Do you think that number 4 is too much crafted, fabricated, and the number 3 is just some bottle whiskey from the cask, water to, etc. So it's more manufactured than 3.
I think personally, knowing how much whiskey was like how much malt was being produced, yeah, around the time, compared to how much they make now, it has to be more generic, doesn't it? There's like they have to have a set taste, and they can't really afford to deviate from it if people are buying it for that. When you're dealing with millions of bottles, like millions and millions of liters, as opposed to 100,000 or so liters, then I think there is going to be some. They're going to lose a lot. Like they're going to lose something out of it, aren't they? Basically, is what I'm trying to say. I think there'll be maths would tell you that.
I thought what Sean said was really interesting, and the fact that it turned out to be the opposite. So
yeah,
3 did taste like it had lost something, as if it had been sort of blanded a little bit, whereas 4 was just fruitier and better just gave more. So it's interesting, isn't it, that it can sort of be protected in the bottle. And again, I guess this came in a box, did it, or in a?
This is in a tin.
The very cream tin with the yeah. Yeah, to be fair, for old bottles that I've had, other than a couple of the grains, which were maybe not grains, a couple of blends which were maybe a bit obscure and poor anyway, I very rarely had a bottle where the actual whiskey seems to have gone bad sitting in the bottle. I think they're probably still quite representative of where they are, unless you've maybe had it sitting in your windowsill and it's all faded and something like that. But seeing as everybody seems to have them in Calax shelves, then we're we're all good.
I think
there we are. Just there we are. Calax in the background.
Observation actually about the corks. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 old corks. We lost 2.
Okay.
And that was only on opening them. They were intact as far as you can see.
Yeah, that was on opening them.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think one of them would have been okay, but the actual rim to the, the topper of the cork to the rim of the bottle was kind of stuck. I think if I hadn't have had to give that a bit of a wiggle, I think the cork might have came out, because on looking in it, it was just there. But anyway, interesting thing, the oldest bottle of all for tonight is probably had the best cork out of them all. Obviously, apart from the new Glenmorangie and Glenlivet, what have you, because they're only from last year. If they had bad corks, I'd be sending them straight back to the shop.
Kind of thing would be interesting to know is whether how the ABVs remain on the older ones. It doesn't appear to have faded, but whether that's something that would have disappeared over time.
Yeah, that's something I could probably find out if I keep a drop of it. And you can buy a little thing off Amazon, can't you, for measuring specific gravity? So,
was the neck fill in each of the older bottles still pretty good?
Soon tell you. I got a picture of.
Because ABV shouldn't really fade unless you're losing some liquid, i.e. the alcohol.
Yeah. Neck fill. Yeah, all good. So the Glenmorangie's right high up, obviously it's the newest one. Glenlivet, the bottom of the neck. Tobermory, just off the neck, but the neck on that's only like that big, so.
Pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Right. I don't know if anybody's in a rush to move on, or you want to keep going over these ones and see what else comes out of it, or revisit them.
If you revisit, then I'll have myself another brand.
So at the end, we'll do like a favourite of the night as well, because that'll be interesting to see what people think has been the best. I mean, so far we're 2-2 for the old stuff. Whether that continues in the second half, who knows? Yeah, so we'll. What have you gone for there, Frank?
The sister distillery of the last one you have. Because I do not have any Glenlivet, Glenmorangie, or Tobermory on the shelves. I went to a sister distillery.
Okay, I'll beg.
No.
No?
The last one. And in fact, this one is on your way, Nick.
Thanks, Frank.
Well, we'll have to see.
Well, I need to check now what's going to be next. Well, obviously it's going to be number 5, but I want to know what it is.
And I'm very curious when the last one, the old one is distilled.
So what the the old one, yeah. So with the Tobermory, obviously Tobermory is now produced at 40 something else, 46 point something, is it?
46.3.
Yeah, so that's now produced at that. Obviously, back in 1989 when this bottle was released, they weren't bottling it at they weren't bottling it at that. So this is 43, but the new one is the higher ABV in this case. Interesting thing about 1989, I'm not actually sure. So Tobermory 10 was obviously what preceded the 12, and the old bottles were Tobermory 10, but they did do Tobermory 12 for the export market. So they're both Tobermory 12, but if it would have been from over here, it would have been a Tobermory 10 essentially. I think the makeup's pretty similar in the two as well. So
one of them, just to be clear, one of them's 1989 Tobermory 12 because it's a
import. Or export. Import. It
Is
was
it
exported.
distilled
It's been imported.
in 89? Or is it bottled in 89?
Thing about 89 is in 1987, I don't think Tobermory was open.
Okay,
I might be
in
wrong.
1975, Magic Distillery Ltd. files for bankruptcy and the distillery closes. 1975.
Yes.
In
Is it 79, is it?
1979, the estate agent buys the distillery, forms new company Tobermory Distilleries, and in 1982 there is no production. And then in 1989, hence the question, production resumes.
So it was bottled in 89. So given that they weren't actually making anything in 1987, this would precede 1975.
Yeah. So there's a huge difference because there is a distillery closure between the two bottles, and it has started up again, and with possibly some.
Does that also mean it's more likely 14-year-old whiskey?
Yeah, it's probably a 14-year-old, but in those days nobody would have bottled a 14-year-old.
No.
10 would have been the standard, or 12. So they've just gone with a standard number.
Well, interesting.
Yeah. That is so this is a bit of an anomaly in the tasting compared to the first two. Obviously, this is
So it is quite interesting because that would be if it shut down in 75.
Well, so far.
This was from, we reckon, 1989. Does it say 1989 on the tin?
It doesn't say. No, this was a bottle. It was just a bottle bought, but I'm going off whiskey base because that's the only other bottle I could find of it.
Well, even if it opened back up in 87, that gives you 12 years. So it's a minimum of 12, but 14 is not a standard age.
It was 12 years old on the bottle.
Right, okay, right, yeah. So I reckon Simon's right. It's probably 14-year-old whiskey that's in it, if they hadn't distilled it since 75. But to put it out as a standard bottle as 14, it just because they'd have to keep on putting it a 14-year-old. If they did a single cask or something, then fine. But they wouldn't put out a standard core range as 14. So that's probably a 14-year-old Tobermory.
Yeah, and they only reopened, I think, in 1971. So if they were using anything older than that, it would be between 71 and 75. Because before that, they'd been shut for about 40 years or something. And I'm pretty certain we're not drinking anything from like the 1930s. If you are, you're welcome.
Yeah, cheers.
So where am I? I think I've muddled them up now, to be honest. I should be able to get it by nose, I think.
By colour, actually, I thought the colour was quite different on the two.
Yeah,
I was about to say the
100%.
one on the left, so it's like watching snooker. The pink's the one next to the yellow and the black and white. So number 5 is a wee bit darker. It's hard to tell now because there's not so much in the glass, but there's
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right there. Yeah.
and that could again be 2 years more in the cask.
The noses are quite different as well.
Yeah.
I think the nose on number 5's got a bit of farmyard funk to it, and number 4 not quite so much. It's more sweeter and sort of a little bit lavender again. So I think number 5's probably the old one for me.
I do get that farmyard funk. I did get that farmyard funk. The instant sort of nose after pour was, sweaty socks or something like that. But that went away, which was good.
Interestingly, I don't know if you're familiar with the old 10, but that doesn't really have it. Well, I haven't noticed it, to be honest. It may well have it. I just didn't notice it.
There's a lot more in the glass going on number 6, though, to me. Packs more of a punch.
So I'm getting more than 5 on the palate. Better say maybe ABV.
No, one's 43. The old one is 43, and the new one is
46.3.
Yeah, there you go. I need to keep referring back to which is which. Yeah, okay.
For me, these two feel a lot closer than the other ones we've had. I'm struggling to differentiate too much of difference.
So I'm getting number 6 to be a lot more tannic than number 5. It really does kind of suck my cheeks in after I've had a swig of it. So I think I prefer number 5.
Yeah, I'd go with 5 as well, definitely. 6 is a little bit more sharp on the finish, I feel.
I think there. Oh, here we go. We've got a 6 has the shinier element that 2 and 3 had. That's from Alan. 5 is my preference. I've muddled them up, so I've got to keep having another look. Has anybody? How's everybody finding them though? Then, so what do you think about number 5 as a whiskey in general? And anybody rate it or not rate it? Tom likes it.
I wouldn't go as far as not rating it, but it's probably my least favourite of the night so far. Number 5, but I quite like number 6, and I would probably say number 6 is my favourite of the night so far.
That's interesting. That's,
Yeah. You'd have thought Distillery 1 or 2 would have been least favourite and 3 would be favourite, but we don't know. Same distillery, don't like that one, like this one.
Yeah. So what about number 6? Anybody think it's a good whiskey? Anybody think it's a dud? Is there any Tobermory fans in the house? Like Tobermory fanboys or haters?
I'm definitely not the biggest Tobermory fanboy in the world, but I do quite like 6. And I think I quite like it because it's quite dry. I think, was it Mike, you said it kind of sucks your cheeks in. I agree with that. I quite like that.
The classic pear drop note on number 6. Straight off Master of Malt, that I think.
So I'd go as far as to say I'm actually not a big fan of number 6. I find it really, it's really sharp. Maybe it's obviously different tastes and everything, people have different preferences, but I really like 5, actually.
No, I'm the total opposite, so you must be wrong, Pete.
Probably.
I like that. I like that. I think I might have got them in a half decent order. Then that it's getting a bit more interesting as we go along.
I think you have, because I think the Glenlivet's bland's the wrong word, right? But they were the flattest, if you like. And then when you moved into Glenmorangie, you could really see the difference between 3 and 4. And now you've moved up to the Tobermory. I think, love it or hate it, there's more going on with the 2 of them.
So Alan's got number 6 in his hip flask, he reckons.
I reckon 6 is the modern one because I think it's got a bit more punch on it. So I think there's more going on. And just because you've said one's 46 and one's 43, I would say 6 would be the stronger, so the newer one.
Yeah. Right, then we'll get down to business, get down to the nitty gritty, see where people stand on them, because this one's a little bit more. So number 5. So how many people actually like number 5 or would rate 5 over 6? 1, 2, 3. Oh, hang on, you've moved around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 for 5. And I'm guessing that's everybody else for 6. So how many people's in here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And
which was your preference, Dave?
I think I like. Well, it's a strange one because this bottle was poured. This dram I'm taking here now is poured from the same bottle you've got, but I've got a bottle upstairs that I quite enjoy, but I haven't enjoyed this as much as that. So I'll go 5 is my preference.
Yeah. I suggest number 6 is the newer one, because who's got 2 old bottles sitting in the cupboard?
You'd be surprised. And well, not anymore anyway. And then so who thinks the old is number 5?
Me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Okay, yeah. So everybody has got that right as well. Yeah, that the old one is number 5. I don't know whether it was the bits of cork that was giving it away or the sort of.
And did you say that was a 10-year-old on the label or a 12?
12. That's labelled as a 12. The 10-year-old does. From the same time, tastes nothing like that. Well, in my opinion, it doesn't taste much like that.
Oh, right, okay. But then, based on what we said earlier, the 10-year-old would be the same age as the 12-year-old.
Potentially, yeah.
So they maybe just maybe just watered it down or done something else, different ABV to make it taste different.
Yeah, I think it was 40% actually, the 10-year-old that I got. And I don't think they use the same casks. I would have to have a look, but I think I remember they don't use the same casks. But
and was not number 6 a 10-year-old?
No, neither. They're both 12. I'm just
12.
saying I've got a bottle of had a bottle of the old 10-year-old. The 10-year-old from around 1989 I had a bottle of. That's just gone in the recycle bin. So, as it stands, New can't win at this point because it's been 3-0 for the old whiskey. But it doesn't mean to say that it can't claw a point back with the blind tasting. So we can all, we don't have to move on straight away, but if you do, and you feel like you might know what it is, put it out there.
And 7 and 8 are both the same thing.
Yeah.
They're very different.
Very different, aren't they?
Both the
So
same.
different.
Both the same, yeah.
It's like 7 is a burnt version of number 8.
I think I might have had some of this from Adam before.
I think it's Bell's, do you?
Now there would have been a third bottle, but that would have probably spoiled it. So
you called it. I reckon it's Bell's. You called it.
I know, just because I just don't think it's very nice. The other bottle. So what's I'm still drinking Tobermory here. Right, we'll move on to 7 and 8. So these are both 40%. And I don't think number 7 tastes anything like what you mentioned there, Bells. Well, not the Bells that Adam supplied to us anyway.
It's just the lemon meringue pie standing out.
Yeah, just as a bit of history for anyone who wasn't on the BSC club that night. My main bottle I shared wasn't the Bell's, but I got a bottle of Bell's and decided to get everyone else to taste it blind, which caused a fair amount of amusement.
People were saying that they thought it was like mezcal finish and all sorts of different things. Not one person said they liked it though, which is a funny quip. I think I really need to have a drink of water because I've just we've gone a bit too quickly for my taste buds here. Maybe should have padded it out with a few slides.
Well, that's not bad. You've done 6 and you're on 7 and 8 within an hour. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm guessing people aren't drinking every single dram. Normally, I would drink every dram as I go, and I'd be absolutely rinsed by now because I'd have had 6 drams in an hour. But yeah. So, what's your verdict on number 6 then? Does anybody like it, hate it? What do they think it might be? Well, we've already had one guess.
6. Or
I think
7 or
6
8?
is a Tobermory 12.
Okay, number 7.
Great illustration of the high speed of dram drinking, Dave. This.
Yeah, I haven't been drinking at all, so I'm kind of a bit of a lightweight at the moment. Yeah. So, what's your thoughts on number 6? 7. We'll go back to number 6. I tried Bells in January and really struggled to finish a small pour. Literally the only whiskey I struggle with. It's not making me gag, so I don't think it's Bells. Who's that? Mr.
Alan.
Alan.
Yeah.
I
struggle with Bells, to be honest. I do. It's far too. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Rancid?
I don't think rancid's the right word. I don't know whether it's rich or I don't know. There's just something a bit about it. It's too much for me. Goat's piss. I've never had goat's piss, but I reckon that would be rancid.
I'd say with these two, probably number 8 is my preference because it's slightly oilier, but they're not my favourites of the night.
Yeah.
You know the saying, let's finish on a high? It's like you've gone for completely the opposite, which is
well, that's why I said try number 8 at the beginning.
Is it the Johnny Walker? An old, 2 old ones.
Could be. It is a blend, isn't it?
I do not have them yet, so I'm just guessing.
I think they are blends.
Does anybody want to? Yeah.
When I said number 8 at the start, I said it could be a grain. The difference between number 7 and 8 suggests more of a blend. There's definitely a kind of grainy bit in the background, but it could be one of these blends where it's just changed so much over time they're now unrecognisable as the same thing.
So one thing I probably should have said is there's a considerable age difference between the two bottles, as in
one was from the 60s.
No, one's an age statement and the other one isn't.
All right.
Oh, okay.
But does anybody actually like either of them?
I'm afraid I don't.
Or really hate them?
I have to say, I don't like them now, but number 8 at the start tasted a lot nicer to me. So it had a lot more milk chocolate and that sort of stuff on it. But
I still quite like number 8. I'm not so keen on 7, but I do quite like number 8 still.
Yeah, 8's perfectly pleasant enough. It's not. Neither of these are as good as either of the Tobermory's, but yeah, so 8 I'd be quite happy drinking. 7 I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, these are both 40% as well, so we've gone back over on the old percentage. Do you want to? Is everyone dying to know where we're at with them? Then, does anybody actually want to take a guess at what they are? Each bottle.
I think your Johnny Walker guess, whoever it was, said that could be quite close with that.
That's a pretty good shout.
Johnny Walker Black. It's got a hint of smoke.
Yeah.
JW Black, actually.
I would go red.
So I'm not going to tell you. Well, I'm going to tell you in a minute, but I'm
I was going to say that for a bit mean, Dave.
You've all gathered that it's a blend, and one of the key ingredients in Johnny Walker Black is definitely in these two. So we'll go for the vote then. This one will be a bit more to it because we'll try and guess the age statement of the age statement whiskey.
I've even got an opinion on these two. I don't know which one I prefer. They're both so different. I'm not a massive fan of either of them, but I'm not I'm struggling to figure out which one I would prefer.
Do you want more time? Shall we go back through them and see what the
no, hold the night.
go back through the Glenlivet and that, and then see where we get with it in another hour.
No, go shoot, go.
Right, show of hands for who likes number 7. Hey, it's got half a vote. I'll give it. Let me have a try. See if I can give it and finish it off to make it a full vote.
Oh no.
Do you who likes it, or who likes it more than number 8?
I think at this point we're just going to have to say who likes it. If I was to buy you a dram of that tomorrow, would you say thanks or don't buy me another? Show hands on that.
Well,
I would just say
I was raised correctly.
So nobody likes number 7. What about number 8?
I do quite like. I definitely like 8 over 7.
It's a win over 7, apart from.
But I do like 8.
I think 8 over 7 probably is, yeah. There's something in 7 that isn't quite to my taste, I feel.
Yeah. So what about, okay, we'll go for the ages. Obviously one's a non-age statement. Which one do we think that is, 7 or 8?
Yeah, I think 7.
7's the NAS.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the general consensus. Okay.
I don't know. 8 feels sharper to me.
Oh, wow. All right, that's you, Tom. I was looking for somebody else called Tom there. Right, okay.
There's only one Don Tom.
Is that not a bit long for your PIN number?
You're right, Sean. I can only remember 2 numbers.
Right, okay then. So we're saying that number 8 is the older of the 2 as a group. What about? Are we gonna? This is going to be individual now. How old do we think it is? Answers on a postcard.
I'd say 12.
So we've got a 12, a 10. So 12, Adam, 10.
Smells like it's to me.
Oh, Alan, very specific. JW Gold Label 18.
That's a really good shout, yeah, because yeah, that's a really good shout.
I'm more interested by Tom's 53 million years.
53 million years. Well, it depends whether you go forward or backwards, like in time, because any advance on 18 or 10? That's the lowest and highest we've got so far.
So I had the 18.
15 or so, but well, I haven't tasted it.
I had the 18 a couple of years ago, and I quite liked it. And I don't like these that much. That's the only thing that kind of puts me off that.
Right, okay then. So that's the highest we're going, 18 for number 8. So without further ado, they are the number 7 was a 1980s bottle,
Johnny Walker Red,
and so was number 8, I think. Potentially 1970s.
Huh.
Now, when I said that it wasn't the bottle that Adam gave us, it is a slightly different bottle. But it is Bell's. You got to think though, at the time, right? This was the most popular drink, Scotch-wise, in the world. Like this was probably about 1980, whatever, 83. They had the market blended Scotch was the thing, and that was the most popular bottle of it.
Well, so this is what I was saying earlier on. if you go
In
back and
theory,
get
number 7 should be shit hot according to the palate of a 1983 whiskey drinker.
Well, that's what I was saying. If you go back and get old blends, so like Bell's or Haig or any old ones, they were much more consistent than malts of the same era. So not necessarily always better, but always consistent. So that was it. So you knew what you were getting in there. So no, I don't like that.
Now take a guess at what number 8 is.
A 12-year-old Bell's.
Oh, 20.
Whoa.
Now that there's a couple of websites that say this is a 70s bottle, a couple that say it's the 80s bottle. So either way, it's distilled in the 50s or the 60s.
And that's number 8, is it?
That's number 8, yeah. And that was 30 quid off auction in November or whenever I bought it.
I'd pay 30 quid for that. That's what I was saying. Some of the old blends are cracking.
And that is the nice, nice cork. So
great tasting, Dave. Thanks for pulling all the bottles together and getting it all out to us.
There would have been out a little while previous, but I was going to put a. So it was going to be the 20-year-old versus the modern bells, and then I seen this at auction for like 10 quid or something. This one,
yeah.
So I bought that, and then I was waiting for bottles to come because I only had enough bottles for. Well, what I had enough bottles for, and then I thought, do you know what? Is it even worth putting a bottle of fucking bells in there? Like half of the group know exactly what it tastes like anyway because we had it the other week.
But the great thing, Dave, is to try that 20-year-old one because my dad was born in 1944, so I reckon the grain that was made with was grown in the fields when he was at primary school. So if you think about it like that, it's fascinating, isn't it? To be trying stuff like that.
Yeah. So even though it didn't, the taste didn't end on a high. I think from a history perspective, I think yeah.
Can I ask? Does anyone know when everybody started chill filtering everything? Would that be an issue? Would that be a factor here? Some of the older bottles might not be chill filtered.
Well, I would say at 40%, these would have to be chill filtered, surely.
Because
don't know if it's always been a thing or if it's just a.
Because like the rule of thumb, what people think is 46%, don't they? Under 46%, it needs to be chill filtered, as it'll go hazy and all that jazz. But speaking to what's the guy, Ian Croucher, he decided to bottle some at 46%. He got some casks, bottled them at 46%, and then didn't realise that like it will still go hazy at 46%. It depends on the liquid.
Yeah, I saw some of those bottles.
So
they were really hazy.
Yeah, so they were actually bottled a long time ago, or they were meant to come out the first in that range. If I remember, I'd had a few when I was talking, but when he was talking, but I think whether they were meant to come out the first in that range or whatever. But then he decided, in fact, what I'll do is I'll go the other way around. So he was going to bring 46% and go up in percentage to cask strength. Instead, he went back over. Started out at cask strength and then went back down to 46%. Obviously, his brand was a lot better at that point. People take on board what he said. Whereas if he was new in the game and he just tried to fling a bottle of hazy 46% whiskey out there, people would think, who's this guy? Yeah. So, yeah, 46% a rule of thumb, but it's not exact.
Yeah, I think chill filtering was kind of the 90s when it started widely. So some of those could have been, others won't, just watering down to get to the right ABV.
But probably sort of some of those with the dark bottles, it doesn't matter so much because you can't see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
I also remember from my dad saying as well, I think the Scotch mist was just more of a thing back then. It was just accepted that it went cloudy in the glass, and that's just what it was.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't think it was frowned upon, and it wasn't until kind of, you say, probably the 90s where people's expectations changed and they wanted this clearer whiskey. Yes,
I think it was a lot to do with the American markets.
I was going to say, I think looking at this, bourbon started doing it. Was it Wild Turkey started doing it in the 90s? So I guess
they're very into like shiny and polished stuff.
No, it was Wild Turkey started it in the 90s when they started shipping to Japan. So it's probably the Japanese market that did it.
Ah, okay.
Their expectations.
Yeah,
interesting.
Which then would have driven us to do exactly the same, just to not be, what's this cloudy stuff in a dark bottle?
Yeah.
Every day's a learning day.
Well, apparently, chill filtration of spirits has been around since the 14th century. So there you go. So they've been doing it for years.
What was it? There was something I was going to ask about this. So that's an interesting thing. When I was reading up on these bottles, there was some general consensus online, and I don't know how true it is, but the Bell's 20-year-old, if it was when it was bottled, if it was late 70s, early 80s, they were saying that there's a good chance that it could have had the what the hell? I forget the name of the distillery. But I was looking at it anyway, and I thought the dates don't even make sense because I don't think the distillery was even built then. So I was going to actually do like one of the slides was going to be built on like around this distillery that didn't even exist when it was fucking. And that's when I decided to knock the slides on the head, and I thought people on the internet say too much and don't know enough. Yeah. Oh, yeah, fine.
That's been superb. Thanks, Dave.
No problem. So, what was everybody's favourite of the night? That was going to be my last question.
Ironically,
have we got any votes for number 1? 2? No, Glenn, leave it out of the window. 3, 4. Ooh, well, I'll tell you now that I think it was number 4. I had a little taste of these beforehand when I was doing them because I didn't want to get smashed this evening. Number 4 was my favourite actually, which I was very surprised about.
Mine's tied between 4 and 5.
How many show hands for 5? 1, 2. Oh, number 6.
6.
7. Were you number what? 7?
Number 6.
Sean.
Number 6. Well.
6. So Tobermory new. Interesting.
With Tobermory old second. So I think it's just of the drams tonight. The Tobermorys came 1 and 2 for me.
I think they have a lot more going on in them, don't they? To want to get your lips and your head around. So I think 7 or 8 is the favourites.
8 would be my second of the night, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yep. I will look for a bottle of that at 30 quid in the auctions. I'll not buy one off Master and Malt for 200 quid.
Yeah. I can post a link to a bottle of that if you want. Whiskey Exchange has currently got it for £235.
Whiskey who? Oh, right, yeah. I've seen the £200 ones. But that's the thing, you quite often see these in, what is it, Rare Malts or something in Master and Malt, just because they're old. They put them up for stupid prices, but you'll get them in auctions for ridiculously cheap. For a 20-year-old whiskey, which it is, right? You know, it's a blend of lots of 20-year-old whiskey. So even the grain in there is 20 years old.
Yeah. So would if I was to do another one of these with hold on, what's Alan put there? Sorry. Nick.
I hope Alan wasn't even to the pool comp. All right. Sorry, I thought he meant take his kids to a pool thing, but no, he meant it's a pool competition. That'd be the one he put up the other day. I think there was a massive bottle of Dewar's for the prize or something.
What's this? Sorry.
Alan was at a pool competition, like a snooker pool competition.
Oh, yeah.
And I think one of the prizes was a 3-litre bottle of Dewar's or something. I can't remember, but
4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. I think that we definitely come to the conclusion then, apart from Bell's, well, even Bell's actually, the older was better on every sort of aspect of it, which is, it's a bit of a shame really, because, well, we're buying whiskey, aren't we? knowing that it's going downhill. Yeah, there you go, 4.5 litre. I was thinking about doing another one. It would be like another 3 sort of randoms and then a blind one at the end. If anybody's interested, if you've enjoyed it, then I'll do one. If not, I won't bother, because to be honest, bottling 8 bottles is just too much for me when I'm only home 2 days a week trying to look after the kids.
Dave, I'm happy to buddy with you to do it. If we sort out between us, and I'll bottle them for the next one. People want to do it that way.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
I'd definitely be trying it again.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in trying again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the next one would be would definitely have to have an Isla in it. So the price point may reflect that. It might be like 25 quid as opposed to 22 quid or whatever. But
1969 Blackbone
more for something. Happy to pay for something interesting.
Yeah, but it just depends what you can get, doesn't it, and when you can get it, I suppose. Yeah. But we'll put it out there and see what people say.
I've got a couple of old bottles already, so it may be that if we just have a chat offline, and I can throw those into the mix for whatever.
That, like I say, that old Pulteney, I actually just pulled the trigger on that because it looked really old. It's nowhere near as old as it looks. But I was going to throw it in here, but then I ended up doing the Bells thing instead. Because that wasn't going to be, it would have just been straight 4 drams. But then I thought this will make it a bit more fun, the fact that you could try something from the 1950s potentially. I mean, I don't know if that's the oldest anybody in here's tried, but it's fucking got to be close. Yeah.
Thanks for doing it, Dave. It was really interesting.
No problem.
Yeah,
Is anybody hanging around afterwards for a chat or anything? Or
I'll stay for another dram, but it's a school night, so I best not be too long.
Or going on to the crap chat or something. I've got I should not have poured. I've got I went the first 4 miniatures I poured in, and I poured them in fully, and I thought, what am I doing? So I've got 4 almost full glasses here to go.
I'm just going to go and find a Bell's antidote downstairs. I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah. So does anybody do much of this trying old versions at 30 quid a bottle? What am I doing here?
Me for sure. Any I can get my hands on.
And how do you find it?
Hardly available here.
Generally on auction. I find them like yourself, so I would try and find one on auction. So some of the old blends, I'll just try the old blend because I wouldn't go and buy a modern Bells if you like. But old black and whites and Cutty Sarks and Haigs are all quite interesting, I find. I quite like them. And yeah, if you can find older versions of bottles that you can essentially buy in the supermarket, so your Glenmorangies and your Glenlivets and stuff, it's great to compare them side by side. So I quite like doing that. I don't get too many of them. I maybe do a couple a year because I don't want to buy too many bottles of cheap whiskey, so to speak. But it's like you said, Dave. It's just what you can find on the auctions as you go through.
like I've been collecting them. Well, I started out with Glenlivet because I started drinking Glenlivet, and so I've got like a 70s, 80s, 90s bottles of that upstairs. Like I said, I bought this one specifically for this. And then I've done it with other ones like that. Yeah, have you seen the Knock and Do? Is Knock and Do?
Yeah, they not do just old
like
ones from the 80s and stuff. They're
the
brilliant.
vintage, and they're all 40%. I don't know how many, but I've got like them going from the 70s to the 90s. Started doing it with Glendeverin 70s to 90s because they're like 30 quid.
Yeah, they're really cheap, and they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. What I do find, particularly with the Knock and Do ones, is if you go and get a 1987 and a 1986, put them side by side, and they're totally different.
Is that right?
Yeah, I find they're quite different, like year on year almost.
It's funny you should say that because I've actually stopped buying them recently, just because I'm thinking I've got enough here, and they're probably all going to taste the same.
Yeah, but I think they quite often taste quite different, and I think that was more the point around, particularly in the 70s. Blends were much more popular because this is how Johnny Walker started up by getting whiskey to be the same all the time. So blends were more popular because you knew what you were actually getting in the bottle. Whereas a malt from one year to the next, because obviously the season was different, the malt was different, whoever ran the still that day, so they were much more variable through the 70s and the early 80s anyway.
I was reading up earlier on about the amount of malt that was actually produced in the 70s, like 73 to 83. Obviously litres of alcohol, 100% alcohol. And I think there's distilleries now that produce more on their own than collectively all the distilleries in Scotland back in some of them years when it was on the downturn.
So do you mean actually produced or actually bottled?
Produced. I'm just
produced, yeah. And I guess that makes sense because if you think about your grain, not grain. If you think about your blends can be 70 to 80% grain, and then a very small bit of malt. And if you're using malt from backstocks, you don't need to produce very much. Now, obviously, some are a lot more malt and a lot less grain, but you might have just produced less of them in the downturn.
Actually, I misread that. There's no distillery churning out 250 million litres, but it's still like a drop in the ocean compared to what it is now. Yeah, we can get together, Nick, or anybody who wants to sort of generate it really and see what we can come up with. But I think definitely for the next one Isla, and what was the other thing I was thinking of? Try and either do like an indie bottle or a bottle at above like a high ABV. Oh, someone's at the door. Worried Frank sent the police round. Yeah. But yeah. What's everyone drinking at the minute? Has everybody polished off what they had? Or?
I was just considering what to drink. So we had a Zoom tasting last week, which was grand, and we all went round to my mate's house. So we were in his garage, which he converted to a home office. So at the end of the night, he gave us all a bottle to take away, which was something that he cracked open in the night, but I can't remember what it is, and he never wrote it down. So I don't want to open it because I don't know what it is. Yeah. So
Tobermory, the old new Tobermory, I think if it stays in the glass for a while, I get sort of like treacly notes. And I mean, it's a while since I've had it, but I used to drink it every now and again, like quite a bit. And I used to get like the toffee notes and all that jazz. Now the old Tobermory has started to get that, even like after it's been in the glass for nearly 2 hours. I'll tell you one thing though. I mean, I know we were saying that there should be no escape of the alcohol, and the ABV shouldn't be dropping if the neck's at the right. But I do think the old ones have been a lot smoother. Like, which one was the first one that we noticed the bite on? It was at Glenlivet, and then Glenmorangie, there wasn't a lot to it, but yeah, I think the old ones were a lot smoother. Whether that's the time in the bottle that's done that or what, I don't know. Definitely getting that farmhouse note. I've never noticed that before.
On the Tobermory.
Yeah, the Tobermory, by the way, the old bottle of Tobermory was the most expensive. So if you get the old 10, it's about, you can get it from as little as 35 quid, whereas the Tobermory 12 was 65 quid. And I think they have a bottle of it in, or they did have last time I was in Royal Mile Whiskies, they were selling it for like 100 quid. But he said, don't bother buying it and just go on auction because you get it for cheaper. That was like face to face in the shop. He was like, yeah, don't buy that. Just look on the auction. He's like, do you want to drink it today? I was like, no, definitely not. He's like, well, don't buy it then. Just keep your eye out if you're not in a rush.
I thought that was really nice. I just wished it had a bit more. I wished it was 46 rather than 43. But it was really nice, that farmhouse sort of feel to it.
Do you know what, actually? It kind of... Do you remember that first bottle of Lecheg we had on for the Bottle Share Consortium?
Tom's, wasn't it? He opened it up with that one.
SMWS Momento.
Yeah.
I'm sure that had a bit of farmhouse about it.
Lecheg is famous for it, and probably back when the bottle we drank tonight was made, they were pretty much Lecheg and Tobermory, I think, were switched around. So Tobermory was the smoky one, and Lecheg was the non-smoky.
Yeah, it was called Lecheg at the time, wasn't it? And then they reopened it as Tobermory, I think.
Yeah, it's built on a bit of land called Lecheg.
That means the safe haven, if anybody's interested in a bit of a history lesson. I did do some...
There's no safe haven when Frank's in the room.